Hello, my name is Rick Moore, and I'm the publisher at Whitecap Publications. Today I'm interviewing author Eric Neer. He's the author of the new book, Natives of the Night, which is really great. And you should really try it. It's available at all bookstores and online too, right? So,
Hmm.
so yes, you are, right? You're famous now, Eric.
Oh, yes.
Yes, but I'd like to ask you some questions about characters today because in Natives of the Night, you've got some fairly interesting and complex characters. So I thought today's questions should be on how do you create complex, interesting characters? How do you hold the reader's attention? So, first off, how do you approach creating realistic and relatable characters in your writing?
Well, I actually probably base a lot of just life experience, people that I've met
Right?
that, and not, usually I blend people together. Uh,
Yeah.
and as it progresses, it gets a little more interesting, or I kind of discover things as I go along about my characters.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but a lot, the genesis of a lot of them are just I don't know, kind of a potpourri of a lot of different people, maybe put into one.
Well, I guess all authors do that. They take from
Hmm.
a variety of different people and combine them, and
Sure.
take it and combine it in a different way to create a different character.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah. I
guess.
think. I mean, it's kind of a good way of getting into the character's head, so they're always with you throughout the story.
Yep. Yep.
You kind of know what they would do in that certain situations, whatever situation they're put in.
Right.
It's a fun thing.
Yeah, it is actually creating characters, especially complex characters, is
Yeah.
really fun. Right. Now,
Right.
what techniques do you use to develop three-dimensional characters, backgrounds, and that readers can emotionally invest themselves in?
Well, again, that kind of goes back to if you're creating from people that you've known or that you know of and kind of know of them, you can kind of do the same thing. You kind of mix it together,
Right.
and if you have someone going through a hardship, uh, it's not really that difficult to come up with a story on why they're going through a hardship.
Right.
That kind of thing.
But how do you get the reader to emotionally invest in some characters?
Well, I think honestly, you kind of lay it out there honestly, truthfully.
Says the best.
Everybody's gone through something, and usually you can relate to something.
Yeah, I guess so, actually.
It's
Yeah.
all about uh, relativity, I guess you would say. It's all,
Now, then how do you balance providing enough details about a character's background and personality without overwhelming the reader with the details?
well, that's kind of a trick. There. I think we talked about this before. There's places online you can go to help you learn how to hone the craft.
Hmm.
But you don't really want to uh, spend 2 or 3 pages on a person's background.
Oh God, that'd
And
be
and
boring. That'd
and,
be
and another
really boring.
and another thing is, if you're writing right, you should be able to show as you go along. Does that make sense? I mean, that
Yes, it does.
how they react to something should give you a sense, kind of their background, really. Just how they react to things.
So what you're saying is that when the characters involved in action, how he reacts to that action
Right.
really develops his character personality profile.
Right. Yeah. An example would be, look, if someone came from a broken home, let's say they're in a situation to where they're listening to a couple argue. Well, you don't have to say they're from a broken home, in order to kind of relate how they act towards that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it
As far
does.
as like, it will show by
It
what
makes a
they
great
do,
deal of sense, actually.
by
Now,
what they do.
can you share any tips or strategies for crafting compelling character arcs that show growth and change throughout the story? Because a lot of authors have difficulty with that. They can get the initial character detail and balanced just about right,
Right.
but then they don't understand how to develop a character arc, successful character arc.
Well, that would be something again that you would kind of do over the span of the writing. Let's say you have a coward, but you want them to be brave in the end. You should be able to just kind of, as whatever this person runs into over a period of time, you should be able to kind of nudge him towards that, or her towards that as the story goes along.
So the character arc, you form it incrementally, right?
Yeah, I think it's just over a period of time. If you got someone standing on A, but you want them to get to B, you kind of develop from A to B,
right,
the line to get there. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
Okay.
Now to get to a more,
I feel like I'm being vague.
Yeah.
Anyway. But it is a vague thing.
It is a vague entry, right?
You're right.
Now, a little bit more difficult question would be, how do you ensure each character has a distinct voice and personality that sets them apart from others in the story? Because you've got, say, 15 characters in your cast of characters, or 10 characters in your cast of characters. How do you ensure that each character has a distinct voice?
Well, right, I understand. Yeah, the thing to do is, I don't know. I kind of almost look at it like taking an actor's perspective.
Right.
You kind of know what this person's all about, so you stay within that character and try not to stray away from that. And if you're moving, it shouldn't be that hard. If you're moving, if you're into the story, what's going on. You should almost be able to visualize these people, really. To me, that's kind of what I do.
An author should be like an actor, you're saying, right? He's got to define himself, each role.
Right.
Each role's got to be defined.
Right.
So they've got to invest very heavily of themselves in the character.
Right. Right. You're not going to have, well, exactly. It's almost like staying in a character with each one of these, at least for me. And it could be different for other people. I know I'm not one of those people who, I know that there are places that teach you to take every character and just fill out a page after page about their background, their interests, what they're going to do, what the this and that.
I know.
And to me, writing is supposed to be fun, and when you start making it a chore like that, that is no longer fun. That's an assignment.
No longer fun.
That's like an assignment.
But
so
you have to have that actor's personality switch.
Right.
Like if you have 3 characters carrying on a conversation, 3 characters carrying on a conversation, you have to be able to switch characters' modality.
Right.
Each time everyone speaks. You got to have
let's simplify it. Let's say you got 2 characters. One of them's pretty serious. One of them's kind of goofball cocky.
Right.
Well, there you go. You know how that conversation is going to go.
Right.
Or you should.
But if you got 3 or 4 characters, it gets a little more complicated.
It does. If they're serious, your characters are serious players in your story, then yeah. So you have to stay. You have to stay in character with each character.
An author's got to juggle character modalities, right?
Right.
That's really the essence of it.
That's the essence of it.
Right. Now I've got.
And I'm not saying that, doing complete biographies on each one of these characters is wrong. I'm just saying it's not for me.
I'll say it's wrong. It's not for me.
It's just
another
not for
difficult
me.
question. What role does research play in developing characters, especially when writing about individuals from different backgrounds or cultures?
I think for as far as character research for me, I just do enough to where I don't look like an idiot. If it's a subject, then I will research it. I like to research. I
Yep.
researched the hell out of that book for some of those topics.
Right.
But as far as character goes, I really rely more on people that I've met, and then I develop my own history about
Yes.
them.
Yes.
That's kind of how I do it.
But
And especially if you're meshing people together to make one person, it's hard to research. I mean, suddenly you've got a Frankenstein monster. How are you going to research this? You're making up your own research.
But let's say they're different cultures, right? Is there backgrounds?
Okay,
So
right.
how would you research them? How would you pull that off?
I recommend Google.
That's true. Nowadays, you can Google.
Right. No, look, if I researched the Wichita tribe, I researched medicine wheels, sacred wheels.
Right.
And that in itself is kind of a character
itself.
The medicine wheel. So, but as far as my actual characters go, I really did just base it off a lot of people that I knew from before and just came up with.
Well, nowadays, modern authors can ask the same question of ChatGPT, say, define this character in the following complex manner, and boom, it'll spit it out. But
again, to me, that just takes the fun out of it.
Yes, it does.
It's cheating.
I see an awful lot of stories because I run an online magazine too, and I get submissions. And I swear they sound just like that. That they research them from ChatGPT or.
The one thing I've seen about, as far as AI stories go, since you brought that up.
Yep.
The one thing I've seen about them that they're not good at, and that doesn't mean they won't be in a couple of years. They don't create very good scenery. Like if you go into a room and you describe the air and the smells and all that, they don't do that. They pretty much stay linear on the story.
Nowadays they do.
So that's as far as what I've seen from them. That's as far as it goes. But.
Right. All right. Another difficult question, right?
Oh, I love them.
Difficult
Please
questions.
keep them coming.
Yeah. How do you handle the challenges of writing morally complex or morally ambiguous characters?
I have no morals. So.
So it doesn't get in the way, right?
Yeah. So how do I, so morally, well, again, it kind of just goes back to the character, man. I mean, that's really what it's all about. When we're talking about character, it's crucial to me that when you're dealing with a character, you stay in that character.
Well, let's see, take Natives of the Night, right?
Okay, I've heard of it.
What would you say, your book, right? Which would you say is your most morally ambiguous character in the whole book?
Morally ambiguous. Well, that's really hard to say. I mean,
I would say
when you say ambiguous, you're basically saying vague, right? I mean, that's what you mean.
So morally ambiguous, like you can't pin a label on him. But I think that would
be. That's kind of vague. I mean, I guess if you were saying,
well, I'd say Devin is clearly, because on the one hand, he's one person, right? On the other hand, he's an entirely different person, right? So he's morally ambiguous in that regard.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
you don't know who he really is till the end of the story.
That's true. And he's set up that way. So I would say he is definitely a vague character as far as like we really don't know what the hell he's doing.
Well, actually, he's a very complex character in that regard.
He's very complex and he's very damaged
too.
He's a damaged person.
Yes.
But he's a damaged person that has the capability of causing a lot of damage if he wants to.
That's what makes him morally complex.
Right.
So Devin, I would say, fits that morally complex or moral ambiguous characters development, because honestly, he is.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
Perhaps you should tell the audience a little bit more about Devin so they'll identify with him. Who is he?
Devin is a disabled kid who's been basically disabled all his life, whose father, well, again, I mean, how far we go with it? His father committed suicide when Devin was fairly young.
Right.
And he's been dealing with that damage to go along with the already damage that he already has psychologically.
He's more complex, right?
Very complex. And he and he's not a bad guy, you know. I mean, actually, he is very good with his friends, very loyal.
Right.
So I don't really want to give too much of it away, but he is a major player in this story.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right. Can you discuss the importance of character motivations and how they drive the plot forward?
Well, the motivations for most of the characters really is to stop something that's going to eventually try to ruin everything. So I mean, they are actually in an interesting position to where they not only are they trying to save people, but they're also trying to save themselves, because if what happens, or what this thing is trying to make happens, they lose basically everything, because they obviously, the magical element of this area has a healing property for them, and if it's gone, that's the end for them.
Well, also, you've got to say that your characters in Natives of the Night don't know entirely where they're going with that.
Because, oh no, it's all up in the air for them.
Yeah, it is up in the air for them.
Yeah.
Right? And they're constantly reaching for it, but they can't quite get the decision, right?
Yeah, and they spend a lot of time just trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
Right.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
But honestly, the way they drive it going forward with the plot is by fits and spurts.
Right.
Go the right direction, and then suddenly they're going the wrong direction.
Suddenly they're going the wrong direction.
Right direction and the wrong direction.
Yeah. What they think is happening is not actually happening, and
right.
And they keep getting caught up in
almost
like little traps here and there.
Yeah, there are. Yeah. Really. Now let's see. Next, how do you approach writing dialogue that captures the essence of each character and helps reveal their traits and motivations?
Well, again, that first of all, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, is like getting in the character when you're writing it.
Yes.
And how that certain character would react.
You got to make them very distinct too, right?
They have to be distinct. Their voices have to be distinct. I mean, really, you should, if you're doing it right, and I'm not saying I'm doing it right, but if you are doing it right, you should almost be able to go on with your dialogue and have that dialogue be recognized for that character without saying that character said it.
Right.
I mean, it should come off that way.
Yeah, I guess so. Actually, because
I mean, it should be almost like expected. Yeah, that would be something someone like that would say.
Right, and the readers got to get to know the characters.
Right.
They can make that decision.
Right.
But in your book, they get to know the characters very quickly.
I try to make that
so that
fairly upfront.
Is really good, right?
Yeah, well, I hope so.
Except for Linda, right? So
well, yeah, there's not a lot of not a lot of dialogue with her for a while.
Nope, not for a while. But do you have any advice for aspiring writers on how to create memorable and impactful characters in their own stories? Because I get this question all the time.
I think that's kind of a tricky question, but I mean, the only thing I would say to that is, if you like them, then you've done as much as you can. I mean, if you like them, then what else can you do?
Yeah, except if they've got characters that are, evil.
I don't care. I love my evil characters.
Most people do, right?
I mean,
In fact,
what's not to like?
enjoy writing the evil characters almost as much as we enjoy writing the good characters.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
know a few. I dip into the well of people I've known in the past for them as well. So
That's great. Now, if you'd like to read Eric's new book, but by the way, your first book was The Killing Pledge, right?
yes, sir.
And published by who?
KL.
Kale Publishing, right?
Yep.
So that's really good too, because that's available in any bookstore or online. You can always get it online. So, but your second book, which you published with us, is Natives of the Night. It's the first book in a 3-part trilogy.
Yes, it
called
is.
Wheel of Shadows.
Yes, it is.
And but honestly, the first version of that, the first iteration of it, is Natives of the Night. And
Right.
I promise you, you will really enjoy it, because I don't say that about many books, but I say it about Eric's book. He really did a fine job of it.
I appreciate it.
So see you again next week, right?
That'll work, man.
All right. See you then, Eric.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.